if I'm doing push hands with Bill, and I'm doing a combination really of both things. Let me actually, let me have your other foot. I can roll him if his strength comes into me and keep him off of me, right? Though like here, I might have to reverse.
Right.
And what did I do there? I partially neutralized him here, but I didn't have a good enough angle with my power here to actually go through his root. So when he forced back against me, because again, he was reacting, doing that same type of thing, I released it
And we
And
got
go
the
on top.
number.
Yeah.
went around. So what I was talking about in terms of, there's rollback, if you go into my center here, I'm turning him, and controlling him that way, that's one thing. The second is really absorbing his strength and discharging. There's combinations of the two. I might get back here and get to a point where I can't really absorb him anymore, but I still might control him. I might roll him for a moment to dissipate a little of his strength, absorb the rest of it, and throw him. So I can do combinations of the two. That was a little trickier. That was actually doing both at the same time. I was absorbing some of his strength. At the same time, I was holding the power. So having this ability in your hands and in your body to change very quickly is important, because that's what allows you to, because you want to do it in response to the other person's strength. I don't want to come in here and go, oh, now I have to absorb him, because if he doesn't react against me, that's not what I want to do. If I come in here and he doesn't react, the push goes through. If I come here and he reacts, let's try that one again. So using neutralization as you're attacking is a very integral part of Tai Chi. And just as a little aside to that, if you start looking at your form with any sort of care, in terms of application, all of these motions are generally neutralization, tying up motions. And they're done, you're changing internally, you're not just going through a physical movement here where I'm moving and like lifting. It's actually here, I'm actually internally changing from doing one jig to another as I go through the form. One of the things that's easy to have happen is, if I go in here and I get drawn to react, I disconnect from him when he starts falling into me.
Which is a mistake.
Which is a mistake, because what happens then is you actually lose your ability to continue to absorb his strength. And you also, generally speaking, will get kind of behind him and stuff, and you'll have a hard time. If he's reacting fast, you'll have a hard time getting back into position to really be able to push.
Well, you can take advantage by that reaction.
Yeah. So if I'm coming in here to push and I get the reaction to run, I've got to follow his body very carefully with my own. So I have to be able to do, if I really slow this down for a second, this is very much like doing the transition from press to push
Yeah.
in Tai Chi. In the Yang form, in the Wu form is slightly different. But I'm coming in here, I get a reaction out of him. I come back in, I fall down, I bring it under him, I go into his legs, and I bring him up. In the form, that's exactly what you're doing. So you want to be following his body. As he reacts, I want to make sure that I don't disconnect. If I go here, he can push me. So I've got to really stay with the person. You really got to stay with their movement. And that's actually probably the hardest part of doing this, is developing the ability to keep your following of the other person's strength matched with it, so you don't get disconnected from their movement.
Once you get that response, do you I mean, you don't really need speed anymore, it seems. You can just kind of follow smoothly then. Or
You might. It depends on the size of it. Okay, let me show you here. It depends on the size of the response. If I get a big response, yeah, it's like I can just kind of go, "Ugh."
I see.
If I get a small response, I gotta be able to discharge really fast because the time between your reacting and getting reestablished in your root is very small.
Yeah.
And so if you get a little tiny reaction, you've got to be able to discharge really fast.
So if you get this long pulse
If
of,
you get a long pulse, you can do a really long
yeah.
push with it. But if you get a very short pulse, you've got to be able to do it right on it. So it's, again, it all depends on what your opponent does, not what you're doing. You have to be able to make those adjustments.